Welcome to Before Floor, the pregame edition of the Five on the Floor podcast, brought to you by the Five Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, aka Three Piece Combo, and joining us from the podcast, we got Mr. Lefty Leif, Greg Sylvander, joining us himself. How you doing, my man?
I am happy to be here. This is the first pregame show I've been in all season, including the preseason. So this is it's dope to be back at a place where I was a lot last season.
Well, you haven't picked against the Heat yet, so hopefully picking them today in a prediction will allow us to pick up a win. Also joined by us, a couple of our regulars here at the preseason or pregame show, Mateo and Marco Romeo, the double M's of our genius here at pregame show. Now, before we get into us, if you guys are on the road still, make sure you guys drive safe. If you're at home, make sure you guys like the video, make sure you guys subscribe, and also make sure you guys check out our primary sponsor, Mark Brown PA. He's going to make sure all of your financial planning is taken care of. That's marcbrownpa.com. If you're young and with a family, want to make sure all your assets go to the right people. If something does happen to you, reach out to Mark Brown PA. Give him a call at 954-866-8513. Or like I said, Mark Brown PA, but that's with a C.com. He's based out of North Lauderdale, so he services the entire area, and he is a Heat fan. So if you want somebody to do your financial planning for anything in the future, make sure you hit up him and not somebody who's a Celtics or a Lakers fan who just moved to Florida for the tax discount, right? Also, you want to make sure you guys go and check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code 5, double your deposit up to $100. Tyler Hero's still sitting at 19.5 points on Prize Picks. He's averaging about 24 in the season, so that's a pretty good pick right there. There's another one that I'll give actually a little bit later in this show. So like I said, go to prizepicks.com. It's your best spot for daily fantasy. Use the promo code 5, double your deposit up to $100. Guys, we are in game 3. Miami has not gotten off to the hottest start, but as a couple of you guys were mentioning before we actually went live, we're not getting blown out in these games, right? We're getting relatively close, but we're just not right there yet. And there's a couple of reasons for this 0-2 start, but I want you guys to kind of air out, what do you feel like the biggest reason for the 0-2 start is? Greg, I'll start with you on this one.
Biggest reason really is just lapses in defense in key moments. I feel like if you look back at the Chicago game, as much as it was painstaking and I was with flu-like symptoms, so it was particularly painstaking for me, it was really a bad third quarter. The rest of the game was played relatively equal, and I know that third quarter stuck out in a nasty way. And then against Boston, I mean, I felt like they had their moments. They competed, but Boston had control of that game. So for me, tonight, I think that it is a situation where being close is not going to be good enough because this homestand is so huge. Like, think about this, y'all. If they head out west and they're 1-3 or 0-4 heading out west, that is like a real weird spot to be in. So I think this is a really big game. I feel like they were in those games, but just couldn't get over the hump. And tonight they're going to have to figure out a way to get it done because they can't afford to go on this West Coast trip 0-4.
Yeah, like you said with the Celtics game, right? When Bam got in that foul trouble, it really just made things a lot more sloppy for them. Boston was able to pull ahead. And going into a road trip, Miami was, over the last couple of seasons, one of the best home teams in the NBA. And starting your season at home, which isn't something we usually get to do. Usually we're out in Orlando or somewhere else starting our season. We actually started the season at home this year, and we're not holding up to those same standards that we were over the last couple of years. Mateo, what else do you think is going wrong during this 0-2 start?
Well, it's been very unlike this team that they're having trouble finishing in the paint. In the first game, Jimmy was the only player who was effective near the rim. Last game, I think they finished 23 of 48 attempts, obviously below 50. That's not like them. Both of these games were lost by 7 and 8 points. That's less than 3 possessions. This is a make or miss league. Who knows what happens if they make just a couple more of those and they play a little better on the defensive end. But what's most disturbed me is their inefficiency on the offensive end, Jonathan.
Now, somebody else who hasn't been quite as efficient is our quarterback, right? Kyle Lowry had a little bit. I mean, you can call it a bounce back game from the scoring perspective, although it wasn't the most efficient game from him. But he's playing against his old team in the Toronto Raptors. You're going to have a little bit of familiarity of how that team comes out schematically and where you can pick your spots. Marco, I'll go you on this one. What does Kyle Lowry need to do to have just a more efficient game tonight?
Honestly, I like this defense more than anything from the last game. I thought he was everywhere. That's kind of like the Kyle Lowry you expect, or else he's kind of like what our friend Alf 954 said. He's pretty much Kendrick Nunn out there if he's not playing defense. But I'm glad that he was at least trying, and there was a lot of effort there and a lot of digging at the nail, which he's like really good at. The offensive stuff, honestly, I thought it was okay. Some of the shots were maybe a little like too Kyle Lowry like those pull up threes, a little too rookie Tyler Hero shots. But those are the shots that he's gonna take, and I'm glad that he's willing to take them because, or else the defense has to respect it. Like he has to take those shots, and I'm glad he at least took them.
Can I sneak one other thing in here, Jonathan, before we move on?
Yeah, of
I
course.
think it's going to be really interesting to see how they approach switching on defense tonight, because this is a team that they will have the ability to do that with. But so far, it has been to the detriment of their defense. I feel like Bam Adebayo has never been further away from the basket. And with this particular small team, they can't afford to have Bam that far away from the basket. So I feel like they're going to have to pick and choose their spots when they switch more than ever. This is a team that may make that harder to do. So that's just something to watch as we go into this game and you talk about adjustments and ways that they can maybe get over the hump in one of these.
Greg, I'll actually let you continue on this point. You talked about the switching with losing PJ Tucker, which obviously we don't want to overstate, but not having somebody down low to rebound when Bam switches out. The first game against Chicago, we tied them in rebounding. They were bottom 5 in rebounding last year. We lost the rebounding battle to the Celtics by 7. What do the Heat need to do maybe differently, keep Bam closer to the rim? How does the Heat, or how do the Heat need to approach this game to be more competitive in the rebounding battle?
It's a tough question because the personnel is an issue. And it's not necessarily just the counting stats of the rebounds. I think second chance points, I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. But I think Boston, it was unbelievable how many second chance points they got. So it's about what happens after those rebounds take place and if they do miss them. Right now, they don't have that type of size, right? So it's a situation where I think they're trying Haywood Highsmith because he has the length to kind of fill that role, but he hasn't been good enough. This is where they miss PJ Tucker. This is where they miss another big. And Yurt would be a great option at this current moment to try to slide in there and gobble up boards, but they don't have that. So to me, it's going to be incumbent on guys to rebound above their size. That's Tyler. That's Jimmy. They can do that. It's just a matter of them actually going out and getting it done. And more than it just being about rebounds, it's also about like ending possessions, because the other part about them getting offensive rebounds is that when you have guys, they trim the rotation against Boston down to like 7. If you got guys getting offensive rebounds against you, you are getting deflated over and over again. And by the end of the game, it's tough to recover from that. So that's just another reason why they got to shore up the glass.
Yeah, now it's a little positive for the team. Tyler Hero, right? Leading the team in scoring, averaged 24 points a game. Last game had a really good first half, a little bit of less, quiet of a second half, but still had a good game as well. Mateo, I'll let you talk to me on this one. Where does he pick his spots against this team? Because we know that Toronto is a lengthy, good defensive team. Where does he pick his spots tonight to be efficient?
Well, I think a lot of that is dependent on how much the point of attack bothers Kyle Lowry on the ball. If he has trouble getting to his spots off the dribble, I would expect to see Tyler Hero more with ball handling duties, coming off screens and pin downs to pull up from deep and mid-range area. But I don't expect that to be a problem tonight. I think we're going to see a little bit better of Lowry on the ball. So as a result, I think Tyler Hero has the Duncan Robinson role early, constant movement on the perimeter, coming off screens and pin downs. Just taking advantage of the space created from Bam and Jimmy near the rim. So later in the game, when Jimmy has sat, I expect to see a lot of pick and roll with Hero and Bam, because I'm not sure if the opponent can ice Hero now when they go to this option, because Bam is such a lethal option going towards the rim. So I expect to see, as the game goes along, Tyler get more on ball usage.
Honestly, I feel like the Hero Bam pick and roll should be a staple in the offense for the next 5 to 10 years. Like that should be literally what this offense should be built around for the next 5 to 10 years, post Jimmy, post everything else. If we're building around those two guys, that's what we need to build around. We're joined by Gad. He's somewhere. I'm not sure if he's in the Heat FTX arena, but he is in somewhere building some area. So Gad, I'll let you answer 2 things for me, right? We started off on what's the biggest reason for the 0-2 start, but I also want you to talk about Pascal Siakam. He's had a pretty good season. I think he's averaging 30 a game this year, coming off a 37-point triple-double in his last game out. Obviously, it's a 2-game sample size, but it's a pretty good game that he's had, and he's showing to step up a little more than he has last season, showing that development. What do you think, or like I said, the reason for the 0-2 start, and what does the Heat need to do to slow him down tonight?
First and foremost, can you guys hear me good?
Yes.
Okay, first and foremost, what's up to y'all? Happy to be here. But I do agree with the Tyler and Bam thing. I just wanted to say, if they build around that this season and moving forward, I feel very comfortable with the Heat's offense long term. But to answer your point, why did they start 0-2? I think part of it is the defensive lapses. The communication just hasn't felt right. They haven't played Heat defense for at least prolonged stretches. We saw bits and pieces of that yesterday where I think Gabe and Kyle actually were the ones that got it going. They galvanized the troops a little bit by getting some stops on the defensive end, and that got things going. But then they kind of fell back into their ways. A little bit of miscommunication, a little bit of just things not going the right way, and Boston hitting tough shots. So that's kind of been one of the issues. Simultaneously speaking, I don't think they're shooting enough threes. Now, Brady and I were looking at the catch and shoot numbers before the game, and they're shooting 17 catch and shoot threes per game, 44%, which is fantastic, but they're not taking enough. That's the issue. So they average, I think, over the last 3 seasons in the Jimmy era, they're averaging around 26 catch and shoot threes per game. So that's about 9 less. That's much less opportunities for a team that, honestly, if you look at the role players, they're built and predicated on three-point shooting. I think they should lean into that a little bit more. And for Pascal Siakam, sorry I'm rambling here. For Pascal Siakam, Nick Nurse was talking about him pregame, and he said this is the most confident that he has been coming into camp through his training and whatever it is that he's done over the offseason. This is the most confident he's been. This is the most, I guess, from a leader perspective, that Siakam has had an impact on the team. So I think that development, maybe him seeing himself truly as the alpha dog, which is interesting because Scotty's ascending. But if he sees himself that way, that might be what's leading it onto the floor and having him play these incredible games against these teams. So we'll see how the Heat do against him tonight.
Yeah, you can see it in his game, right? He's just a little more assertive. Like when we talked about Bam taking that next step, we just talked about him being assertive. We're starting to see the same thing from Pascal as well. He's just being able to play into his strengths and use that, and whenever the defense take whatever the defense is giving him. Marco, I'll let you get with me on this one. Break down what you see from Pascal this year and how do the Heat guard him, as well as who else on this Toronto team should we watch out for tonight.
I thought Gad nailed it on the head. He's being like more decisive in his movements. He's knowing what he's capable of. It's something that Bam's going to get to at some point. We all know it. Pascal, he's the type of guy that can. He's very streaky as well. If you remember 2 years back during, I think, the pre-bubble run, whenever he was like all first team or NBA second or third team, I don't remember. He had started off kind of cold, but then he got really hot at the end of before the stoppage, and whenever that stoppage happened, it really hurt him because whenever he went into the bubble, he got really cold really fast. So when he gets hot, he gets really hot. But when I see him, what I've seen from him is he's really just being more like, I know who I am now. I've been in this league so long that I know what I'm good at, what I'm capable of, what I'm going to attack. But he just has to kind of take away those gaps that he's really good at attacking, especially against a smaller team. Caleb really got to get up into him, like Gabe did last game against Jason Tatum. The other player that might go off, Gary Trent Jr., my guy he's the epitome of hot and cold. And when he's hot, he can really get hot. He gets so hot that he gets into conversations with like guys like Tyler Hero, which I don't think he belongs in those conversations. But he's the type of guy that can have those kind of nights. I think he had one of those nights against the Heat last year. And then another game, he went like 1 for something from 3. So he's a real he's going to give you a really good game, or he's going to give you a really Jordan Clarkson game. So yeah, he's another guy I'm going to be keeping my eye on.
Now, Mateo, I know I stole the question that I was going to give you from Gad, but I'll let you close out with before we go into rapid fire and predictions. I'll let you close out with this one. Now, we talked about, the power rotation isn't the best. What is it going to take for us to see Jovic, right? Because, I mean, we saw something from him in the preseason, and even if it's just a 4 to 6 minute spurt, when is it going to take for Coach Spo to actually throw him out there and just let him get his feet wet?
Well, perhaps after a loss tonight, an 0-3 start would sound like a disaster for this team. Perhaps we'd see him sooner, but I really don't expect it. I think they're going to win. Toronto is coming into FTX on the second night of a back-to-back. They lost last night against Brooklyn. The percentages of winning the second night of a back-to-back are not that high, but Jovic, I think, is someone who's going to get more time as the season goes along. He's a rookie. Young players are not the ones who dominate in the league, and especially later in the postseason. Those are usually the veterans. He's a smart player. I did like what I saw in the preseason, but he's still very raw. And on the defensive end, I need to see more effectiveness on ball. So I think as the season goes along, but maybe things get a little interesting if they start 0-3.
Now, Greg, I want you to start us off with our rapid fire. 16 matchups between Bam Adebayo and Pascal Siakam. In those games, Bam is about 14.5. Pascal's at 15.5. Who wins the scoring matchup tonight?
The scoring matchup specifically, I'm going to give that to Siakam, but Bam Adebayo is going to have the better all-around game. I see Royal in the comments. He mentioned that Pascal is diet Bam. He's like diet Bam. Like we're using like some real off-brand sweetener in that drink to make that diet Bam. But I think tonight that Bam Adebayo may not score as much because Pascal's been on a tear, at least in the last game. And also, I have a feeling that Tyler and someone else from the backcourt is going to get going tonight. It's going to be an interesting game. 8 of the last 9 between these two teams have been decided by single digits, including each of the last 5. So this is going to be a close game. I am interested to see how it plays out. Are we into rapid fire picks? Is that where you want me to transition?
Questions. We're gonna get picks a little bit later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Gad, who do you think wins the scoring matchup tonight?
I'll go with Siakam too. I just think he's someone that is looked upon more to score. I agree with what Greg said. I think we're going to get more scoring from the backcourt. Now, I don't know exactly who that's going to be. I think you can pencil in Hero and you can kind of just count on one of the shooters to do that. But I agree with Greg. I think it's going to be a big backcourt game. I think they bomb away from 3.
Marco, 12 threes made against Chicago, 8 threes made against Boston. Over or under 11 threes tonight?
I'll go over. I'd say around 14, 13, that number. Honestly, that's good after the last game. The Raptors are also a very switch-heavy team, so you might not see a lot of attempts. I'm hoping they have a lot more attempts because last year they were top 5 in both attempts and makes per game. So, honestly, that's probably the key to the game that most people are kind of talking about. And, yeah, I want to see them get it up at least. Eric Spoelstra loves to have up in the high 20s, so that's where I kind of want to be at. As a whole, and whether those shots are good, they got to be corner threes. I think Mateo pointed this out in one of his tweets. Miami's not getting a lot of corner threes this year. That's kind of that's really bad. Whenever you look at it, I'm not mincing words here. It's bad. Corner threes are kind of like the new sauce in the league. That and layups. So when you're not getting those, it's kind of making your offense a little rougher around the edges. So I'm looking for the corner threes, especially tonight.
Marco?
I just said Mateo.
Mateo, sorry.
Well, a team like Toronto is built to bait the opponent into shooting from the outside. I am going to take the over on this one. I think the Heat are actually going to hit it. It is also dependent, on the effectiveness of screening. I think, Strus, Hero, and Lowry are going to have some effective nights from deep tonight.
Greg, close us off on our rapid fire with a prize pick. We have Bam at 10.5 on the rebounds, over or under on those rebounds for Bam, with coming in with, the Heat emphasizing losing on the glass last game.
That is an interesting call on the Bam Adebayo rebounds. If you look at it, he has gone over 17 Oh, you're on rebounds. Excuse me. Because I was going to say, I do like Bam over 16.5 points. He's not going to be the leading scorer, but that is an easy one. He's gone over that 4 of his last 5. Let me pivot here to rebounds. Hang tight. I'm almost there. What did you say it was?
It's at 10.5.
10.5. That's going to be difficult, but you know what? They got to figure out a way to have him rebound like that. So I'm going to go over there as well. Also take Tyler over in his scoring. I'm trying to figure out what the total is, but I don't care what it is. Go over. And Max Strus is another guy that I don't know. I have a feeling like this could be the Max Strus game, but yeah, on Bam's rebounds specifically, go over because they have no one else that's going to go over that amount. I don't think tonight, maybe Jimmy, but use the code 5FIVE to get your initial deposit matched up to $100.
Yeah, I'll let you kick us off with predictions. Give us a prediction for tonight and then give us some keys to tonight's game.
I think the Heat win. I think they show more defensive versatility than they've shown over the first few games. I don't think they switch everything tonight. I think you're going to see a little bit of zone, and maybe even some drop, specifically with the starting lineup. I think that fits more of how Kyle and Tyler want to play point of attack defense, or lack thereof. And I think the Heat bomb away from three. I really think, although the Raptors do switch, I think they're going to find ways to just get into the gaps of the Raptors and find a way to kick it out and shoot a three. It seems like they're overdue for one of those games. So I think this is one of those games where they win on random 3-point variance, where maybe the Raptors play the better game, but the Heat take and make like, I'll say they make like 16, 17 threes, and just go crazy from three tonight.
Marco?
Yeah, I got the Heat winning tonight. I think they're kind of in semi. I don't want to say desperation mode, but I think they're going to be like, okay, we kind of got to have the ship righted before we kind of head out west in this west trip that's coming in a week and a half. And yeah, I kind of have them fixing up those little fine tunage, rebounding, defense, those gaps. I think they're going to attack enough offensively. Like what Gab pointed out, the Raptors aren't a team that really likes to get at the rim, especially Fred VanVleet. He's not a guy that lives at the rim. He can kind of barely see the rim as it is. So I think playing more job coverage is probably the better idea there, and I would kind of like that in certain spurts. But it's hard to go from job coverage to man to switch, and it's a hard thing to do, and a lot of teams are very rarely effective at all that. Boston is one of those teams, so hopefully they kind of mix things up. The defensive stuff gets righted, but I think they're going to win tonight.
Before I get to you, Mateo, we want to thank the most consistent man in 5 Reasons history, the unidentified celebrity review, for the $5 dono. Help get this team over 20K. If you guys are watching right now, we appreciate you guys, as always, for being a Miami Heat sports fan. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you get all the Miami Heat latest news, post-game videos from all of the players, everything. And then like the video as well. It's free and it helps us out. So we appreciate you as well. Now, Mateo, I'll get to you on this. Go ahead, give us your prediction, and then give us some keys to the game.
I have the Toronto Raptors winning tonight. Pascal Siakam is on fire. Somebody should throw some water on him. But every moment he's on the court, someone like Bam or Jimmy has to be on the floor with him, because they're the only ones who are big, strong enough, and fast enough to really bother him. He is so good with his feet now. Like, he can really blow by you now in the post. He's also very long. Pascal Siakam, when you're guarding him in pick and roll, I would suggest going under the screen to take away the driving lane, because you'd rather live with him being a perimeter shooter. But I got the Toronto Raptors winning tonight. He creates a lot of attention just near the rim area. We have to remember, they don't just have Gary Trent. They got Scotty Barnes out there too, Fred VanVleet, who's always in constant motion on the perimeter. I have the Heat starting 0-3 this year.
Greg?
0-3. I'll say this. They play them now, tonight, and then they play them again Monday. No matter where you're playing them, I know it's both in Miami. It is really difficult to beat a team twice in a row. So the Heat are in a tough spot here, and they really risk going out on the road 1-3 or 0-4. And then they play the Warriors on the road, and then they play the Warriors back at home. So none of that's going to be easy. So you're really getting a guts check of this team. I think tonight they get it done. I think that we see a big Tyler Hero effort. Jimmy Butler bounces back from kind of a weird game against Boston, and they get this victory. Now, the next game, it's going to be really interesting. If they get that one, I think it really changes my perspective on the season to start, because right now I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, honestly, this is a game that, I'm always there picking with Greg, usually picking the Heat. So I'm going to stick with that. I do think tonight Miami does something differently. Like Mateo said, we make small adjustments, right? We make adjustments just enough to get the win tonight. I think defensively, we're going to see a little bit better of a locked-in Jimmy Butler. I think he's going to look to make a statement on the defensive end, just looking to shut down whoever he plays. And I think he had maybe 2 free throws last game. But regardless, I think he's going to look to get to the line a lot more. I think the Miami Heat are just going to look to dictate pace tonight, and that's going to be the key to tonight's game. So, as always, thank you guys for checking us out here on Before Floor, the pre-game edition of the 5 Reasons Sports podcast. And make sure you guys like the video, make sure you guys subscribe. If you guys want to make sure you're planning your future with anything financial, go to markbrownpa.com. That's marcbrownpa.com. He'll take care of you. And if you want to play daily fantasy, get some easy money, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, and they'll match your deposit up to $100. Alejandro, take us home, my man.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for the pregame show. As Greg said here, he's going to be hosting the postgame show here as soon as the game is over. Thank you to Mateo and thank you to the whole crew that did the pregame show, the first part of the pregame show. Now let's continue with our coverage, getting ready for this game, the Miami Heat facing the Toronto Raptors in Game 3 of the season. We're going to start with Brady Hawk. We're actually going to include his film dive from what happened last night against the Celtics and what's been happening in the first two games. So let's start with him, with Brady Hawk and his film dive that you can enjoy here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel, and then we'll listen from what the players said about last night's game. Let's start there. All right, here we go.
The Heat had similar issues in the second game against Boston that they had on opening night. There's just defensive issues, offensive issues, more so consistency on both ends, just trying to get to things enough. And obviously, it didn't work out in this game 2 against Boston either. But I just want to go through, and I'm going to show 2 plays on the defensive end because it feels like one of the things that they, as Tyler said after the game, hang their hat on is defense. One thing that they're sticking to is the game plan of soft switching, and they're kind of just fully switching out, especially with the starting unit when Bam's on the floor, which has its perks and it also has the downside of it as well. So I'm just going to show 2 plays from the first 3 minutes of this game that show both sides of this. And the first one is the kind of the negative element, which is where teams are really just kind of taking advantage of Miami in a lot of ways. And that's where Boston was kind of dictating who they wanted guarding them and where they wanted to be guarded. And as you're going to see right here, you look at the bottom of your screen, it's going to be Jason Tatum and Derek White, and he's going to screen for him right here in the bottom of your screen. He's going to set a screen right here. Tyler can easily kind of hold Tatum off a little bit, and Caleb can kind of retreat and find Tatum in the lane, and then Tyler can fly right back out to the corner to Derek White. That's usually kind of the plan right here. They immediately give it up. It's just an immediate switch now. It's Jason Tatum in space under the rim against Tyler Hero. That is not what you want by any means this early in the game as well. Easily ends up in a foul. It's just giving that stuff up so easily. It's one thing to kind of switch in the action and send Bam out to the perimeter, which we know he can do, and then kind of help down low. But when you're kind of allowing teams to do this in space, that's where it feels to be problematic. And the reason I bring this up today is because later today, the Miami Heat are going to be playing the Toronto Raptors. And other than the fact that they're a very good defensive and pesky team defensively in the half court, they're a very lengthy team offensively, and they can put you in the post and they can find other ways to kind of take advantage of you in that way. So that's something you just cannot do, I guess, heading into tonight as well. The other part of this is more of the way they can get around the soft switching. What makes it great? What makes it work, I should say. Right here, immediately you'd say, okay, Kyle Lowry's giving up that switch so easily to guard Al Horford. Say what you want about Kyle Lowry, but one thing he's very good at is fronting in general, just kind of fronting the post, being kind of annoying in a way where you just kind of can't get the ball inside. And then if you do get the ball inside, that's where it gets a little problematic. And that's when you look at the bottom of your screen with Tyler here and Caleb Martin. Look where they're playing it at right now because they know what their job is. They know what their job is defensively. It's one or the other is going to have to help over fully. And the other one's have to split the difference in the corner. Now Kyle Lowry starts the front. You're going to see Jason Tatum right here putting his hand up, pointing, saying, get the ball to Al Horford. That's their whole game plan. They dictated this switch. Now they're going to try and take advantage of it. Now Miami's kind of playing from behind a little bit. But we're going to see Tyler here is the guy that's helping over. They had perfect rotation right here, and it ends up being a contested jumper, and he misses. That's when it looks decent, when they're kind of all in a string and they use the words connected and chemistry and communication. That's when things will look kind of great defensively at times with this lineup, with the switching. But ultimately, the point of this is that I just don't know if they can fully get to it against Toronto all night. Yes, they have pull-up threats as well. That could kind of hurt you, but I honestly feel like mixing in a bit of drop would be in their best interest kind of moving forward. Not being predictable every play down, knowing what coverage you're kind of being in, and then letting teams like Toronto or Boston kind of find the switch that they want and kind of working from there. Miami has enough guys. I get you could talk about lengthwise or height-wise, but they have enough guys to make it work in drop because Bam Adebayo, what do you want him being defensively? In every action. And if you put him in a bit of a drop once in a while, he can contain in the action. He's not being pulled away from the play every time. And then guys aren't just saying, Bam, we're not letting you defend this guy. He's going to be involved pretty much all the time. The issue with it, the flip side, is that you're relying on Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry to be kind of operate constantly around screens and fight through and around and under. But that's something I guess we're going to have to figure out from there. But something to monitor, I guess, heading into Toronto is the soft switching once again. Do they work a little bit of drop in? Do they continue the soft switching? Do they fight through more screens?
We'll see, but it just seems like this is kind of the thing to watch right now for a Heat team that always kind of relies so heavily on defense.
All right, that was Brady Hawk's film dive. You guys can enjoy all of those here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. He does this every day after Miami Heat plays in the NBA. All right, let's continue with our pregame show. Let's start now to listen from the players what they said after the game, after last night's loss against the Boston Celtics. Let's start with Bam Adebayo.
After the last game, you spoke about the defensive issues you guys had against the Bulls. Did you see some of those same issues tonight, or was it different problems against the Celtics?
Nah, it was, I wouldn't say different problems, but, the thing about it, we got to be more connected. And that's offensively and defensively. I feel like we just need to be more connected. And, it's the start of the season. That's no excuse, but everybody's catching a rhythm, trying to figure it out.
Bam, all the guys are saying that lack of communication, lack of being connected, like what can fix that?
Communicate. Guys getting out their comfort zone. We all come from the summer where, we play pickup, we play in pro leagues, and, defense matters to a certain extent. So there's no communication, so you build that habit. Now we just got to get out of that habit, build a new one. And that's communicating, everybody clicking on all cylinders, and everybody being in sync.
Ben, what was your frustration level when you got your fourth foul and the run kind of slipped away from you guys in that third quarter?
My frustration was, it wasn't because of that foul. It was just, I felt like he gave me 3 of my 4, and that was my frustration. But I feel like I let that dictate, the swing of the game. And that's on me. Yeah, but now my money go to a charity. I don't even know where it's going.
Bam, so far nobody on the team really seems all that concerned with the offense, but understanding that Boston will take certain things away through 2 games, are you guys getting the shots that you want?
Yeah, I feel like all our shots was in, each player's wheelhouse. I feel like everybody who was taking shots, they were falling. I feel like it's more the defensive side. We got to get back to that mentality of trying to hold teams under 100.
Bam, you guys speak about the defense not being good enough through these first couple of games. I'm just thinking about, in general, the way that you guys were able to get, you spoke about how all the mid-range shots and all the shots that they were giving you, those were the shots that, you guys took. It happened a lot in the Eastern Conference Finals as well. How much of it is just taking the shots that the Celtics are giving you? How much of it is just trying to, figure out a rhythm for you guys? And is there a balance to that, to taking all the shots they give you versus others?
Definitely a balance. Everybody wants to be aggressive, but, we got to be smart with our shot selection. Like I said, I feel like everybody who was taking shots tonight was in the wheelhouse. I feel like those are shots everybody shoots in practice. Everybody shoots in shoot around, one-on-one, whatever it may be. So it's really not our offense. I feel like 104 points can win a game. I feel like it's the other side we need to really lock in on.
Bam, Gabe had a nice finish to the game. Now that he's been through the fire of the playoffs, so to speak, have you noticed anything different in him or in his approach this year?
Definitely more aggressive. He's definitely got comfortable in his role. And he's becoming, a great backup for Kalo. And he brings a different dynamic to the game. He picks up 94 feet. He has that dog mentality that we all love. As you've seen in the stretch where he was doing it on both sides.
You really got going, especially early on, right away, hitting those shots in the mid range, going at it out offensively. What did you specifically work on in terms of that area of your game this summer, and is that something you're hoping to expand upon as the season goes on?
I mean, me, those shots are in my wheelhouse. Coach speaks about being efficient, and that was the biggest thing for me this offseason, just being efficient and being consistent with my shots.
All right. That was Bam Adebayo after last night's game against the Boston Celtics. Let's continue with our pregame show. The next one coming up here, the next press conference, is going to be coming from Jimmy Butler. Let's listen to what he said about last night's game.
Fourth, what did that do to you guys? It just seemed like you guys were in control there for a few minutes, and then it just turned on a dime.
It's tough, but I don't like that he got 4 fouls, but he got it in a manner when he was trying to get somebody open aggressively on the screen. They could go either way. They did not go our way tonight, but that's okay because that's not the reason why we lost this game. We got to be better all around.
There are 80 left, obviously, and you never want to be 0 in anything. I get that, but how fortunate is it that you have another one in 24 hours to try to get that first one out of the way?
Oh, we straight. We just know we got to do better on the defensive end. We said it after the Chicago loss. We're going to say the same thing after the Boston loss. But we do not want to say the same thing come Toronto tomorrow. So we gotta be more excited to play defense and get a stop. Match that energy that we play with on offense.
Just 26 threes tonight. Spo was saying kind of schematically that's what Boston was taking away, but how do you kind of strike that balance of taking what the defense gives you and then trying to get up more shots from three-point range?
Shoot them whenever you're open. Sometimes shoot some contested ones. It's just part of the game. I think we got enough shots on goal, though. We got 92 shots up. We got a lot more shots up than they did, now that I look at it. But offense wasn't the problem. We didn't rebound. We didn't get no stops. And overall, we just didn't play hard enough. We didn't play winning basketball. When you're talking about the effort, ball in the air, ball on the floor, we were nowhere to be found. And outcome is what it was.
Jimmy, on that comeback kind of in the fourth when you guys were battling back, Gabe had a really nice run for you. What developments are you seeing from him from last year coming into this year?
Same type of player, very confident, shoot the ball well, get into the paint, finishes well, knows where the ball has to go. And he's going to be a big reason why we win a lot of games as our backup point guard. Hella talented, and I think everybody loves to play with him. We just want him to keep being who he is.
Jimmy, you guys forced the Celtics into 19 turnovers tonight. I know you said the defense wasn't good enough to win the game. You forced them into 10 more turnovers than you guys finished with. I wanted to know how you feel about not only the transition offense, but the transition defense through 2 games, and if that's something you guys got to be better at.
Without a doubt. We got to get back more. We got to close gaps no matter who has the ball. And then I think we did all right in transition when you talk about offense. Maybe we bobbled the ball a couple times and, didn't put the ball on the money to get our shooters in a shooting pocket or get somebody a layup. But overall, offense is pretty good. I think the defense is where we lack right now.
Just getting into the specifics defensively, what is it that is lacking?
We're not getting no stops.
Is it the execution? Is it like a effort thing?
I ain't gonna say effort. We just don't play hard sometimes because we think that we can outscore people. But we just don't get stops. I don't know if we're not connected. We're not making the right rotations. We got to take that one-on-one matchup. It's a combination of a lot of things. But as a whole, as a team, defense is not good right now. Perfect. Good.
All right, that was Jimmy Butler. As you can see, they're all talking about defense. Defense has to be better in order for the Miami Heat to win more games this season. We'll see what happens tonight against the Toronto Raptors. And talking about the Raptors, let's listen from former Raptor, Kyle Lowry, and what he said about last night's game.
We lost, so no matter how I felt, honestly, it's about a team. And, for me, I just lost my appreciate it. Thank you. Oh shit. Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's free. I think I gotta stay aggressive and find ways to help our team win basketball games.
It seems like you, Bam, got it going early. Seems like the team you were getting to places maybe you weren't in that opener. But what are the keys to making it sustain in big moments in the fourth quarter? Kind of keep that going.
I think our defense is everything. Honestly, I think our defense is what can get us to the point where we need to be. Get stops and get out in transition. I don't know what they shot in the fourth quarter percentage wise, but I feel like they made a lot of shots. And I think in that situation, we get stops. We can get out and do more.
How much do you think is it communication? Is it just being in that position? I mean, a little bit of both. What's the combination that you think?
A little bit of everything. I think we're just still trying to figure out some things and just kind of be on the same page a little bit more. But still a work in progress. 0-2 in our first NBA. The first win of the season is always the hardest one to get.
It's only been 2 games, but the three-point attempt numbers have been down for you guys. What have you seen that's kind of contributed to that?
I don't know. We got to find a way to get them up. And coaches can talk about it. We have a goal, and we haven't reached it yet. Not even close. So we got to find a way to get there somehow, some way.
Do you like the looks you're getting? I mean, I don't mean you personally. I mean, just as a team, or do you think that?
Yeah, I think we get more. I think I just got to figure out how to get more. I think we got to, find ways to get some in transition, have court, drive kick swings, just find ways to get more open looks or just get more shots up in general, threes wise.
Nights like this, where you're happy to be back at it tomorrow night. I mean, is it one of those things where you got to keep looking through the practice or whatever it may be, or just jump right back in the mix?
Always good to play back to back. Always good to kind of get that loss off your mind, and you got to prepare for a team that's coming in that's really talented and really good. So, you learn from it and move on.
What did you see from Boston in those minutes when Bam wasn't in? It seemed like that was when the game really swung in their direction.
They made shots. Our defense wasn't the same without Bam. I think Bam, having foul trouble tonight kind of hurt our team in general. But for us, it's all about, next man up also. Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Kyle Lowry talking about what went wrong. What's going wrong right now for the Miami Heat? I want to say hi to my friend Heater, not a hater. What's up, man? What's good? How are you? How are you doing? And thank you to Young OG, to Star Fox, to Jermaine, to Team Blonde, to all of you that have been commenting here during this pregame show. Let's finish it tonight as we get ready for the Miami Heat facing the Toronto Raptors. Let's finish our pregame show listening to Eric Spoelstra talking about these first 2 games, especially what happened last night against the Boston Celtics.
Sort of having to claw back too much, or were there specifics that you saw sort of game-wide throughout the game that are a concern?
No, I thought the competitive disposition was certainly higher tonight. There were a lot of probably 5 or 6 important skirmishes during the course of the game. We won a couple of them, but every time we won, those swing moments, they came back and were able to get, some separation, either a 7-point or 10-point lead. And then, that just became a little bit too much separation on that last skirmish, at the end. This was much different than game 1. We were way more active, way more of a disposition. I think this game and disposition that we brought tonight probably would have won game 1. But that's the way it goes. We have to continue, to work at it and get better. I think we forced a lot more turnovers. I think this is back-to-back, games. I think in Chicago, fourth quarter, we held them to 20 points. Tonight, 22. That just has to be a lot more consistent. You're not going to do that every quarter, obviously, against very good teams, but you get a couple quarters like that, sustain it, be a little bit more consistent with it. That certainly would put us in a better position.
Plus,
What did you see in those stretches?
plus minus usually doesn't tell much of anything, but plus 20 with Bam, minus 27 without him. That when he got his 4th, he had the tech too. I mean, did you feel like that took the wind out of the sails a little bit?
No. Him getting his 4th foul certainly did. I think the first foul, which I didn't think was a foul, like those things add up, and then he ended up missing some minutes in the first half. That's the way it goes sometimes. him getting the tech, I think that was kind of inconsequential. It was more the play that got us into the hole and that swing moment. But yeah, him being in foul trouble, I think 2 of the calls were tough calls. But we overcame, a lot of different circumstances throughout the course of the game. And, our pressure, our activity, the deflections, forcing turnovers was much better than in game 1. And, we weren't able to get over the hump and get the job done, but we just have to stay the course. There's definitely improvement from game 1 to game 2. We're not looking for moral victories or anything like that, but we're looking for progress, ultimately, hopefully to lead to wins. And, that's what we'll focus on for tomorrow night.
It's only been 2 games, but the 3-point attempts have been down these first 2. Have you seen anything that's kind of contributed to that, or is it just a case of small?
No, not necessarily. I think, in the last game, the turnovers had a lot to do with it. I think this game, more schematics. The way Boston defends, there's not going to be a ton of them open. It's a big strength of ours, but you have to do whatever you have to do against really good teams. And I think, there was some swing moments also where we were defending at a high level, and then more importantly, it wasn't necessarily about the 3 ball, it was more importantly about quality shots. And there was some moments in the game, where we got it to 4 and we didn't get the ball where it needed to go, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's 10 points.
You mentioned those 4 fouls for Bam. Those stretches at the end of the first and third quarter is really where the game got separated. Beyond him just not being on the court, what changed there in terms of what Boston was doing or what you weren't doing that spun things in their direction?
Yeah, they went to a little bit of a hybrid lineup. Then they put their, either guards or wing players on Deadman, and that kind of blew up some triggers. We're used to that playing against them, and we weren't quite as intentional offensively during those moments. And you pay for it. The margin for error against really good teams, like how we feel we are, and certainly Boston is as well. That if you're not intentional all the way through, that can be costly, and it might not be a 15-3 run. It might just be a 7-1 run or something like that. And I think that happened, probably 2 or 3 times during the course of the game.
0 free throws for Jimmy Butler tonight. Was it a matter of shot selection or just an unfriendly whistle in terms of not being able to get the line?
There's a couple that we feel that could have been fouls. I'm sure they feel the same way. That's just kind of the way it went, tonight, and they did a great job of protecting the paint and trying to defend things 2-on-2 or versus their switches and stuff like that.
You mentioned Boston schematics kind of taking away the threes, and it led to kind of what looked like a postseason shot diet at times. Did you like how the guys, their approach to the shots that were available, and did you like the shots that you got?
For the most part, yes. But again, when you're facing a good defensive team, you have to be able to generate, whatever you generate, as long as you're getting the ball where it needs to go. That's the most important thing. And then your shot profile will be what it is. You trust your guys, to take the right shots and to make the right reads versus the coverages. Again, against a team like Boston, probably not going to score 140. So those swing possessions, are extremely important, getting the ball where it needs to go. And I think, there was a handful of possessions, in each of those quarters, at the end of the quarters, that we weren't quite as intentional as we could have been. Okay, thank you.
Voy a hablar. All right, that was Coach Eric Spoelstra talking about the first 2 games of the season. Thank you very much for joining us here in the pregame show on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Remember, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. give it a thumbs up, give it a like, so we continue growing here and help us to get to the 20,000 subscribers mark this month before we reach November. So please enjoy the game, enjoy the rest of your night. Remember, we're going to be doing not only the live score here on the channel if you want to hang out and just as you enjoy the game and talk to the guys here, whoever's online, and have fun with us. Or also, we invite you to come back to our Five on the Floor live right after the game for the post game show here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Remember, the same starting five, it's already out. Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, and Bam Adebayo. That's going to be the starting five. No Victor Oladipo, no Omer Yurtseven. They are still out and not available for tonight's matchup against the Toronto Raptors. Have a good night. Enjoy the game, and we will see you back later here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Bye-bye.